The night pressed close around her as Samantha
Should be
Sam
able to get
Reed
a clear
crouched
shot from
behind a
this
crumbling
location.
wall in Kandahar. Moonlight silvered the edges of her scope as she counted her remaining ammunition. 6 rounds, 6 chances. Her team was gone, all of them. The radio had fallen silent hours ago, leaving only static in the memory of their voices as they realized the ambush had been orchestrated from within. A betrayal so complete that Sam was the only one left standing. Through her scope, she tracked movement across the compound. 6 men, all armed, searching methodically for her. Their leader, Yusef al-Zahrani, stood apart, his silhouette unmistakable against the pale walls. Intelligence had confirmed he was responsible for the deaths of 23 American soldiers. Tonight, that number had risen by 5. Sam's finger found the trigger. She breathed out slowly, found the space between heartbeats, and squeezed. The rifle barely moved against her shoulder. Through the scope, she watched al-Sarani crumple, his body dropping with the finality of certain death. 1 down, 5 to go. Fort Benning spread before her under the Georgia sun 3 years later. Sergeant First Class Samantha Reed stepped off the transport bus, a duffel bag slung over her shoulder. At 32, she moved with the quiet efficiency of someone who had learned to conserve energy for moments when it truly mattered. The Advanced Infantry Training Unit was her new assignment, a significant step down from her previous postings, but exactly what her superiors thought appropriate for someone still healing from classified wounds. Major James Wilson reviewed her file with barely concealed skepticism. At 38, he carried himself with the polished assurance of someone whose career had been built more on connections than combat. Support units, administrative roles, Wilson said, tapping the folder. This is a combat training facility, Sergeant Reed. We need instructors who've actually been in the fight. Sam met his gaze evenly, her amber eyes giving nothing away. I'll do my job, sir. See that you do. You'll be handling safety oversight and administrative duties until further notice. As Wilson dismissed her, Sam recognized the judgment in his eyes. It was the same look she'd encountered throughout her career, the automatic dismissal of her capabilities based on her gender, her quiet demeanor, her unassuming presence. Staff Sergeant Brian Mitchell showed her to the instructor's barracks, a single-story building that housed the training cadre. Formation at Oro 500 tomorrow, Mitchell said, his barrel chest puffed out with self-importance. Don't be late. The barracks housed 6 other instructors, all male veterans of various conflicts. Master Sergeant Eric Ramsey, a former Navy SEAL with 3 combat tours, spotted her first. Fresh meat, he announced to the room. What did you do to get stuck here, sweetheart? Fail out of admin school? The room filled with laughter. Sam methodically unpacked her gear, giving no indication she'd heard. She arranged her few possessions with military precision, including a worn copy of Sun Tzu's The Art of War that had seen more combat zones than most of the men in the room. Private Ryan Foster found her later that evening, standing anxiously outside the barracks. The young soldier was 3 weeks into advanced infantry training and clearly struggling. Sergeant Reed, Staff Sergeant Mitchell said you'd be handling administrative issues. I was wondering if you could help me with something. Sam gave him her full attention. What do you need? I'm struggling with the qualification course. If I don't improve my marksmanship scores, I'll be recycled. His voice held the desperation of someone watching their dreams slip away. Sam considered him for a moment. Meet me at the range at Oro 4:30 tomorrow, before formation. Foster's eyes widened in surprise, but he quickly nodded. Thank you, Sergeant. I'll be there. The pre-dawn air held a chill as Sam waited at the rifle range. Foster arrived precisely on time, slightly winded from jogging but alert. Show me your firing position, she instructed. Foster assumed the prone position, shouldering his weapon and aiming downrange. Sam observed silently, her eyes catching what others had missed. Your breathing is off, she said simply. You're anticipating the recoil. Exhale slowly. Squeeze between heartbeats. Don't pull. She knelt beside him and made minute adjustments to his grip and position, her movements precise and confident. Try again. Foster followed her instructions, adjusting his stance. His next shot hit center mass. Then the next, and the next. 5 rounds, all grouped tightly in the kill zone. How did you do that? Foster asked, genuine wonder in his voice. Staff Sergeant Mitchell. The sharp voice cut across the range. Mitchell strode toward them, his face flushed with irritation. Behind him, an older man with weathered features watched from a distance. Reed, you're not authorized to conduct marksmanship training, Mitchell snapped. That's not your lane. Sam stood, her face betraying nothing. Private Foster asked for assistance with his qualification. I was providing basic pointers. Mitchell looked at the target downrange, then at Foster, who couldn't quite hide his pride at the tight grouping of shots. Private, get back to your barracks and prepare for formation. Reed, I don't care what you did in your previous assignment, but here you follow the chain of command. As Foster gathered his gear and departed, Sam felt the older man's eyes on her. Captain Samuel Harrison, she later learned, ran the armory and equipment section. He had watched the entire exchange with keen interest. My office, Sergeant. Now. Harrison's voice carried the gravelly texture of someone who had shouted too many orders over too many explosions. Inside the armory, Harrison closed the door behind them and studied her for a long moment. That was quite a display this morning, teaching a struggling recruit to shoot expert-level groups in less than 5 minutes. Sam remained silent, waiting. I've been watching you since you arrived, Harrison continued. The way you move, the way you observe, the way you handle your weapons. You're not what your file says you are. Sam met his gaze evenly. With respect, sir, my file says exactly what it's supposed to say. Harrison nodded slowly in understanding. I served in Desert Storm, Somalia. Later did tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Seen my share of operators from various special programs. He reached into his desk and pulled out a rifle bolt assembly that had been partially disassembled. Show me how you'd clean and reassemble this. Without hesitation, Sam picked up the components and began working. Her hands moved with fluid precision, disassembling the remaining pieces, cleaning each one thoroughly, and reassembling the entire bolt in less than 2 minutes. It was not the standard procedure taught to basic infantry, but a specialized technique used by advanced units. Harrison watched in silence, then nodded once more. As I thought, your secrets are safe with me, Sergeant Reed. The live fire exercise was being conducted in a wooded training area several miles from the main base. 3 squads of trainees practiced combat maneuvers with live ammunition under the direction of Ramsey, Sergeant First Class Nathan Bennett, and Mitchell. Sam took her position in the observation tower, monitoring the exercise through binoculars. For nearly an hour, the training proceeded without incident. Then Sam noticed something that made her blood run cold. One of the trainees, moving forward to his next position, was heading directly toward an area where the ground showed subtle signs of disturbance. Her experienced eye caught what others had missed: the telltale indicators of unexploded ordnance. Safety control to ground instructors. Possible UXO in Sector 4. Halt exercise immediately. Mitchell's voice crackled back over the radio. Reed, what are you talking about? There's no UXO marked in that sector. Sam's eyes never left the trainee, who was still moving forward, unaware of the danger. Trust me, Staff Sergeant. That's UXO. Stop him now. Mitchell hesitated, clearly reluctant to accept her assessment, but something in her tone made him reconsider. Squad 2, freeze in position, he shouted across the training ground. Sam was already moving, descending the tower ladder with rapid, controlled movements and sprinting toward the location. She reached Mitchell's position in moments. What exactly do you think you see, Reed? Mitchell demanded. Disturbed earth pattern, vegetation disruption, and fragmentary metal exposure, Sam replied calmly. Classic indicators of partially buried, unexploded ordnance. Probably left over from demolition training last week. Mitchell frowned but raised his binoculars to look where she was indicating. After a moment, his expression changed. All units maintain position. Possible UXO confirmed, he radioed. Sam approached the suspected UXO with the careful movements of someone who had done this many times before. She circled the area, identifying the edges of the danger zone and placing markers to create a perimeter. Then, to the astonishment of those watching, she knelt and began carefully clearing debris from around the partially buried object. "Reed, get the hell away from there," Mitchell shouted. "That's an order." Sam ignored him, her focus entirely on the device. It was indeed an unexploded training mine, one that should have been deactivated but still showed signs of being live. Her fingers moved with practiced precision, tracing the mechanism with knowledge that came from disarming far more sophisticated devices in far more dangerous circumstances. "This is live," she said, her voice carrying across the now silent training area. "Training mine with a faulty deactivation. Firing pin is still hot." 30 seconds later, she stood, holding the deactivated device. "It's safe now," she said quietly. Word of the incident spread quickly. The story morphed with each retelling, but the core remained the same. The quiet instructor that everyone had dismissed had just saved multiple lives with skills that nobody knew she possessed. That evening in the gymnasium, Ramsey decided to prove a point. With trainees and instructors gathered for hand-to-hand combat training, he called Sam forward. "Since Sergeant Reed seems to have hidden talents," he announced, "perhaps she'd like to help demonstrate a more realistic scenario." Sam walked forward to the center of the mat. "Happy to assist, Master Sergeant." Ramsey turned to the trainees. "Sometimes you face an opponent who doesn't match your size or strength. That doesn't change the outcome when proper technique is applied with sufficient force." He turned to Sam. "Attack me however you want, Sergeant. I'll demonstrate proper defensive response." Sam nodded once, then assumed a neutral stance. The gymnasium fell silent as everyone watched with anticipation. For a moment, neither moved. Then Sam attacked. What happened next occurred so quickly that many of the watching trainees couldn't fully process it. Sam feinted high, drawing Ramsey's defensive reaction, then dropped low and swept his legs while simultaneously redirecting his balance with a hand against his shoulder. Ramsey hit the mat hard, the air leaving his lungs in an audible rush. Before he could react, Sam had secured his arm in a joint lock and pressed her knee into the small of his back, completely immobilizing him. The entire sequence had taken less than 3 seconds. Silence filled the gymnasium. Sam held the position for a moment, then released Ramsey and stood smoothly, offering him her hand to help him up. Ramsey ignored the offered hand, rising to his feet with a furious expression. "Lucky shot," he muttered. "Let's try that again." They reset their positions. This time Ramsey attacked first, coming at Sam with a powerful combination of strikes that would have overwhelmed most opponents. But Sam wasn't most opponents. She slipped the first punch, parried the second, and used Ramsey's momentum against him, executing a perfect hip throw that sent him crashing to the mat once more. 4 more times they engaged, and 4 more times Ramsey ended up controlled on the mat. Each time Sam used a different technique, demonstrating mastery of multiple combat systems from Krav Maga to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to traditional military combatives. Finally, Ramsey held up his hand, breathing hard. "That's enough demonstration for today." That night, Sam's dreams took her back to Kandahar. She was with her team of 6 operators, moving through the darkness with practiced precision. Their mission: eliminate Yusuf al-Zerani and his lieutenants. The radio crackled with coordinates for the extraction point, coordinates that had suddenly changed mid-mission. The moment of realization as they entered the valley, an automatic fire erupted from all sides. the faces of her teammates as they fell one by one, the cold determination that had kept her alive for the next 48 hours as she methodically hunted down those responsible. She woke gasping, sweat-soaked despite the cool night air. For 48 hellish hours, she had moved through enemy territory, surviving on skill and sheer will. 27 confirmed kills. The memory of each face, each shot, each decision made in fractions of seconds followed her into consciousness. She slipped outside, moving to a secluded spot near the perimeter fence, and pulled out a secure satellite phone that wasn't listed in any of her official equipment. She dialed a number from memory and waited. "Confirmation?" a male voice asked. "Sierra Echo 729 Alpha," Sam responded. "Go ahead." "Reynolds is coming," she said simply. "Understood. Continue as planned. Be ready." The next morning, Sam found not just Foster waiting at the rifle range at Aero 430, but 3 other trainees as well. "Hope you don't mind, Sergeant," Foster said. "They asked if they could join us." By the time they finished, the sun was rising and more instructors had appeared, including Mitchell and Bennett. They observed in silence as Sam demonstrated advanced techniques that went well beyond basic marksmanship instruction. "Word spreads fast around here," Captain Harrison observed, offering Sam a cup of coffee. "By next week, you'll have half the company showing up for your morning sessions." They stood watching the sun rise in companionable silence. "Reynolds isn't just coming for routine inspection," Harrison said finally. "Word is he's looking for specific talent for a new task force. Something about enhanced training methodologies for special operations support units." Sam's expression revealed nothing, but Harrison wasn't fooled. "That's why you're here, isn't it? This whole assignment is an evaluation." Sam met his gaze. "You know I can't confirm or deny that, sir." Harrison smiled slightly. "Didn't expect you to. Just connecting dots." Colonel Alexander Reynolds arrived in a black SUV that morning. At 59, he carried himself with the bearing of a man who had spent 4 decades earning every piece of metal on his chest. His steel gray hair was cut high and tight, and his weathered face bore the lines of someone who had made life and death decisions in 3 major conflicts. Major Wilson stood at rigid attention as Reynolds reviewed the unit's performance metrics, training protocols, and personnel files. His expression grew increasingly stern as he studied the reports. "Your injury rate is 27% above division average," Reynolds observed, his finger tapping a particular page. "Your qualification pass rates are 17% lower. Your instructor retention is abysmal." Wilson shifted uncomfortably as Reynolds continued his assessment. Finally, the colonel requested Sam's file. He read it with growing intensity, then made a phone call, speaking in terse sentences that referenced authorization codes and classification levels far above anything typically needed for a training unit inspection. When he ended the call, his expression had transformed into something between anger and disbelief. "Gentlemen," he said slowly, "do any of you have the faintest idea who Sergeant First Class Reed actually is?" The 3 men looked at each other, their confusion deepening. "She is an instructor, sir," Wilson said weakly. "Administrative support, primarily." Reynolds stood to his full height, suddenly filling the small office with an almost physical presence. "She is considerably more than that, Lieutenant. Considerably more." The briefing room was filled with instructors when Sam entered. Major Wilson stood rigid near the podium, his jaw clenched so tight it looked painful. Reynolds entered through the side door, his presence immediately commanding total silence. "Be seated," Reynolds ordered, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "I have spent the morning reviewing this unit's performance metrics, training protocols, and personnel files," Reynolds began, his tone formal and severe. "What I found is deeply troubling. Your injury rates are unacceptable. Your qualification pass rates are below standard. Your leadership has failed to maximize the resources available to this unit." Wilson's face flushed red, but he remained silent. "However," Reynolds continued, his voice taking on a different edge. The most troubling discovery I made today was not about your failures. It was about your complete and utter ignorance regarding one of your own instructors. Sergeant First Class Samantha Reed, he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. Please step forward. Sam moved from her position against the wall, her steps measured and quiet. She stopped in front of the colonel and came to attention with military precision. For the past 2 weeks, this soldier has been assigned to safety duty and administrative tasks. She has been relegated to the most basic instructor responsibilities because her chain of command assumed she lacked combat experience. He paused, letting the weight of those words settle. That assumption could not be more catastrophically wrong. Reynolds glanced down at the document in his hands, then back at the assembled instructors. Sergeant Reed has completed 4 combat deployments to classified locations, conducting classified operations. She holds expert qualifications in 12 different weapon systems, including several that do not exist in any public inventory. She is certified in advanced demolitions, counterterrorism operations, and tactical intelligence gathering. The room seemed to tilt. Bennett was staring at Sam with his mouth slightly open. Ramsey had gone pale. Mitchell looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. During her most recent deployment, which ended 4 months ago, Sergeant Reed was part of a special operations task force conducting high-value target elimination in an extremely hostile environment. He paused, his eyes moving across the stunned faces before him. Her confirmed kill count, gentlemen, is 63 enemy combatants. The number hung in the air like a physical thing. 63. It was a number that most infantry soldiers never approached in entire careers. It was a number that spoke of sustained combat operations at the highest levels of intensity and danger. And it belonged to the quiet woman standing at attention in front of them, the instructor they had mocked, dismissed, and underestimated at every turn. She has been awarded 2 Silver Stars, 4 Bronze Stars with Valor, and a Purple Heart. All of these citations remain classified and do not appear in her public record. Reynolds turned to face Sam directly, and his expression softened almost imperceptibly. Sergeant Reed, at ease. Sam relaxed her stance slightly, her face still betraying nothing. But there was something in her eyes now, a flicker of acknowledgement that the mask she had worn for 2 weeks was no longer necessary. 2 days later, Reynolds called Sam to his temporary office. We've received intelligence that requires your immediate attention, he said without preamble. It concerns Operation Phantom Scythe. Reynolds activated a secure tablet and pushed it across the desk toward her. On the screen was an intelligence brief stamped with classification markings. Yusef Al-Zarani, Reynolds said as Sam scanned the document. Target number 17 from your operation. Intelligence believed you eliminated him during the compound strike in Kandahar province. I did, Sam replied with absolute certainty. Confirmed kill with a suppressed MK-12. Clean headshot from 300 meters. Reynolds' expression grew even more grave. Then someone is using his identity because this was captured yesterday by one of our surveillance assets in Northern Virginia. He showed her a surveillance photograph of a man entering an office building. Despite the poor angle, the resemblance to the target Sam had eliminated was unmistakable. Reynolds swiped to another image showing the same man meeting with another individual in what appeared to be a parking garage. These people aren't just operational. They're sending a message to you specifically. He pointed to a small pin or button with an unusual emblem, a scythe crossed with a rifle, the unofficial emblem of Operation Phantom Scythe. Homeland Security and the FBI have established a joint task force to locate and neutralize this threat, Reynolds said. They need someone who knows these targets, who understands how they think and operate. When do I leave? Sam asked simply. Immediately. There's a transport waiting to take you to Quantico. As Sam turned to leave, Reynolds spoke again. These people, if they are who we think they are, orchestrated the ambush that killed your teammates, and now they're here on American soil, potentially planning something significant. The unspoken question hung in the air. Could she maintain objectivity in the face of such a personal connection? Sam met his gaze with calm certainty. I'll do what needs to be done, sir. No more, no less. As the transport helicopter lifted off, Sam's mind flashed back to the mountains of Kandahar, her team of 6 operators moving through the darkness with practiced precision. The radio crackling with coordinates for the extraction point, coordinates that had suddenly changed mid-mission. The moment of realization as they entered the valley, an automatic fire erupted from all sides. The faces of her teammates as they fell one by one. The cold determination that had kept her alive for the next 48 hours as she methodically hunted down those responsible. The black SUV with tinted windows moved smoothly through the evening traffic of Northern Virginia. Sam sat in the passenger seat wearing civilian clothes, dark jeans, a charcoal button-down shirt, and a lightweight jacket that concealed the Sig Sauer P226 holstered at her side. Special Agent Thomas Davies of the FBI drove with careful attention to traffic laws. The surveillance team has maintained visual on the apartment building since 0600, Davies said, his voice measured and precise. No sign of our primary target, but 3 individuals matching the profile of known associates have entered and exited at irregular intervals. Davies glanced at her with professional concern. I've read the redacted versions of the Phantom Scythe after-action reports. I know the personal cost for you. If this is too close— It isn't, Sam interrupted, her voice calm but definitive. I'm fully compartmentalized. They reached their observation post on the 12th floor of a building, 6 blocks from the target location. For 2 hours, they maintained vigilant observation. At 2137 hours, a black sedan pulled up in front of the target building. A single passenger exited, keeping his head down but briefly looking up toward the security camera, revealing his face. Positive identification, Sam said, her voice perfectly controlled. Youssef Al-Sarani. The facial recognition confirmed a 98% match. Sam lowered her binoculars slowly, her mind processing implications that defied explanation. She had eliminated this man personally, had watched him fall through her rifle scope, had received confirmation from the ground team that secured the compound. Before Davies could say more, the comm system crackled with urgent information. All teams be advised, came the tense voice of Alpha Team's leader. Subject is exiting the building, moving with purpose. He appears to be— The transmission cut off abruptly. Through the window, Sam saw a sudden flurry of movement on the street below. The black sedan was pulling away from the curb with squealing tires. Simultaneously, 3 other vehicles converged on the area, their movements coordinated and aggressive. We're compromised, Sam stated flatly. They made our surveillance. Davies was already issuing rapid orders through the comm system, but no response came from Alpha Team. Through her binoculars, Sam could see figures moving rapidly into the target building, their body language unmistakably tactical in nature. They're not running, she observed. They're attacking. They moved swiftly down the emergency stairwell, maintaining tactical spacing. As they reached the 8th floor landing, Sam held up her fist in the universal signal to stop. From somewhere below came the unmistakable sound of controlled footsteps moving with tactical intent. They found the observation post, she whispered to Davies, and now they're hunting us. Sam's mind raced through options. She signaled to Davies her intention to check the hallway for access to the secondary stairwell. At the hallway junction, Sam paused, listening. She peered around the corner, spotting the secondary stairwell door at the far end of the corridor. 20 meters of exposed hallway with no cover. She was about to signal Davies when the elevator chime sounded. Without hesitation, Sam pressed back against the wall as the elevator doors slid open and 2 men stepped out, their jackets bulging with concealed weapons. Sam made an instant decision. She stepped forward, assuming the body language of someone confused and slightly irritated. "Excuse me," she called to the men, her voice adopting the precise cadence of a building manager. Are you guests of a resident? We've had reports of unauthorized access on this floor. The tactic bought them precious seconds of confusion. Sam moved before they could fully react, closing the distance with rapid strides. She struck with brutal efficiency, a palm heel to the throat of the first man, followed by a precise knee strike. As he doubled over, she seized his arm and slammed him face first into the wall. Move, Sam ordered Davies. Get to the contingency extraction point. The radio communication from Charlie team indicated they were under fire from multiple hostiles at the east entrance. Sam made another instant decision. Get to the extraction vehicle, she told Davies. I'll create a diversion. That's not the plan, Davies objected. Plans change when contact is made, Sam replied, her amber eyes hard with resolve. I know these people, how they think, how they move. Sam slipped through the stairwell door to the third floor. Using a compact tactical mirror, she scanned the lobby below, identifying 3 men in tactical gear positioned behind pillars and firing toward the building's east entrance. 2 more stood near the security desk directing the operation. One of them was unmistakably Yusuf al-Zarani. Sam assessed the situation with cold precision. 5 hostiles, civilians potentially present in nearby areas, limited ammunition, no backup. The echo of Kandahar was unmistakable. Outnumbered behind enemy lines with mission parameters shifted from observation to survival. She took a deep breath. 4 count in, 7 count hold, 8 count release, and made her decision. The silent warrior was going hunting. Sam created a diversion using a flashbang grenade, then rappelled down to the lobby using a fire hose. In the resulting confusion, she systematically neutralized 2 of the hostiles with non-lethal strikes. Charlie team, seizing the opportunity, renewed their suppressive fire, forcing 2 other hostiles to retreat. Al-Zarani was shouting into his radio, backing toward a service hallway. As Sam closed in on him, he turned directly toward her position, as if sensing her presence, and spoke a single word: Phantom. Her true operational call sign from Phantom Scythe. The momentary shock of hearing that name cost her precious seconds. Al-Zarani used that hesitation to disappear through a service door, even as his remaining men laid down covering fire. Sam pursued Al-Zarani through the service door, following distant footsteps down to the building's maintenance levels and into an abandoned factory complex. She sent Davies her GPS coordinates, then advanced despite the obvious trap. Whatever answers lay within, she needed them, not just for the mission, but for herself. Inside, the factory floor stretched before her, abandoned machinery creating a maze of potential hiding places. Sam moved forward with controlled precision until a voice called out from the shadows. Phantom, Al-Sarani's voice echoed. They told stories about you, you know. The American Shadow who killed 27 men in 48 hours. Sam remained silent, using the voice to triangulate his position. Upper level, northwest corner, approximately 30 meters away. Your team called you Phantom, but our people called you something else. Malaika al-Maut, the angel of death. His voice hardened. Your bullet killed him instantly, a clean shot. Professional, but not the man you were sent to eliminate. How did you know about Operation Phantom Scythe, she asked, buying time as she maneuvered into a better position. You had a ghost in your machine, Phantom, Al-Zarani replied. Someone who believed in our cause more than yours. Someone who provided everything we needed. Operational timelines, team compositions, extraction plans. The realization hit Sam like a physical blow. Someone from within had betrayed them, had sacrificed her team, had left her alone behind enemy lines, fighting for survival for 48 bloody hours. Who? She demanded, her voice hard with controlled fury. That would be me, came a new voice from behind her. Sam pivoted, her weapon raised, to find herself facing a man she knew all too well. Major Thomas Reeves, the former intelligence officer who had coordinated Operation Phantom Scythe from the forward operating base in Kandahar. "Hello, Phantom," Reeves said, a pistol held casually at his side. "It's been a while." Time seemed to slow as Sam faced the man who had betrayed her team. Major Thomas Reeves looked thinner than she remembered, but his eyes were the same. Cold, calculating, observant. "Surprised?" he asked, his tone almost conversational. "You were always the perceptive one. I sometimes wondered if you suspected the extraction point change," Sam said, her voice steady despite the fury building within her. Reeves inclined his head slightly. "Necessary adjustment to operational parameters," he replied, mimicking the precise language he had used 3 years earlier. "You were never supposed to survive, Phantom. No one was." "Why?" Sam asked, though her tactical mind was already mapping the factory layout, noting potential cover and exit routes. "Money initially," Reeves admitted with disturbing candor. "But it became something more." A shadow crossed his face. "When Julie died in that embassy bombing in Cairo, our government did nothing. Just diplomatic notes and sanctions. My wife deserved justice, not politics. That's when I realized the system was broken." Sam heard subtle shifts in background noise indicating movement from multiple positions. Additional operatives were converging on her location. She was outnumbered, possibly outgunned, with no backup immediately available. It was Kandahar all over again. "Now we conclude unfinished business," Reeves said, raising his weapon. "No hard feelings, Phantom. Just operational necessity." Sam was already moving, diving behind a massive piece of machinery as the first shots rang out. Bullets sparked off metal surfaces as gunfire erupted from multiple positions. She assessed her situation with cold precision. 6 hostiles minimum, limited ammunition, no immediate backup. She had faced worse odds in Kandahar and survived. 4 count in, 7 count hold, 8 count release. Her breathing steadied, her heart rate stabilized, and her mind cleared. The silent warrior shed the last vestiges of the training instructor and embraced the deadly efficiency that had earned her the name Phantom. A hostile appeared 10 meters to her right. Sam fired twice, controlled, precise shots. The man fell without a sound. She immediately changed position, avoiding the return fire that peppered her previous location. Another hostile moved into her field of fire. Another controlled double tap. Another body on the factory floor. From his elevated position, Al-Zarani directed the operation, his voice carrying commands in a mixture of English and Pashto. Reeves had disappeared from her immediate visual range, but Sam could hear him coordinating their defensive positioning. "She can't escape," Reeves was saying. "Maintain containment until we can confirm elimination." Sam allowed herself a grim smile. They still underestimated her. Containment was a strategy for predictable opponents, not for someone who had survived 48 hours alone in enemy territory. Sam sprinted the last 10 meters to the staircase leading to Al-Sarani's position, firing the shotgun at a structural support to create a deafening distraction. As the hostiles responded to the noise, she ascended the metal stairs with practiced silence. At the top landing, she came face to face with Al-Zarani and his personal guard. The guard reacted first, raising his weapon, but Sam was faster. The shotgun roared, the blast throwing the man backward. Al-Zarani fumbled for a pistol concealed beneath his jacket. "Don't," Sam said, the shotgun now trained on his chest. "You won't be faster than the trigger." Al-Zarani froze, his eyes calculating as they met hers. "Your reinforcements won't arrive in time," he said. "Reeves has contingency protocols for law enforcement response." Sam maintained steady pressure on the shotgun's trigger, her eyes locked with Al-Zarani's. "Decision time," she said quietly. Al-Zarani's expression hardened. His hand moved toward his concealed weapon. The shotgun's report was deafening in the confined space. Sam checked his pulse, confirming what she already knew. Target eliminated. One primary target remaining. Sam descended the stairs, navigating the factory floor with predatory purpose. The remaining hostiles were withdrawing toward the loading dock, covering Reeves as he prepared for extraction. A side door promised the most direct route to cut off Reeves' escape. Sam moved toward it, dispatching another hostile with a shotgun blast. The man fell, but not before squeezing off a 3-round burst that caught Sam in the left arm, tearing through flesh and muscle. Pain flared, but training asserted itself. 4-count in, 7-count hold, 8-count release. The pain receded to manageable levels. She switched the shotgun to her right hand and continued forward. Through the side door, Sam edged forward to the corner of the building, risking a brief glance toward the loading dock. Reeves stood by an idling SUV surrounded by 3 remaining operatives. He was holding a ruggedized laptop. She stepped out from cover, the shotgun held steady despite her injured arm. "Last chance, Reeves," Sam warned. "Surrender." He looked at her with something approaching regret. "We could have used someone with your skills, Phantom." His hand emerged, holding not a weapon, but a small electronic device. A detonator. "Strategic thinking requires strategic sacrifices," he said, his thumb hovering over the activation button. Sam fired without hesitation. The shotgun blast caught Reeves in the shoulders, spinning him around and sending the detonator skittering across the pavement. His operatives opened fire immediately, forcing Sam to dive behind a concrete barrier as bullets chipped away at her cover. The laptop had fallen beside the SUV. Reeves was down but moving, attempting to reach the vehicle despite his injury. Sirens wailed at the perimeter of the factory complex. The quick reaction force had arrived, but they were still setting up containment, precious minutes that Reeves might use to escape with the critical intelligence. Sam made her decision. She sprinted from cover, ignoring the fire that erupted around her, focusing entirely on reaching Reeves and the laptop. Bullets tore through the space she had occupied fractions of a second earlier, but her speed and unpredictable movement pattern made her a difficult target. Reeves saw her coming. Despite his wounded shoulder, he managed to draw a pistol, aiming it with the steady hand of someone who had trained extensively. He squeezed the trigger. Sam felt the impact like a hammer blow to her thigh. The bullet tore through muscle, staggering her momentarily, but failing to stop her advance. 3 more strides brought her within striking distance of Reeves. He fired again, but Sam was already moving, twisting her body to avoid the shot. She crashed into him with controlled violence, her right hand striking his wounded shoulder with precision. Reeves howled in pain, the pistol falling from his grasp. They grappled briefly, but despite his height and weight advantage, Reeves was no match for Sam's combat expertise. Within seconds, she had him pinned, her knee pressing into his sternum. "It's over," she told him, her voice deadly calm despite her own injuries. Reeves stared up at her, his breathing labored, but his eyes still calculating. "Nothing's over, Phantom. You've stopped one operation. Others will follow." Sam retrieved the laptop, then zip-tied Reeves' hands behind his back with practiced efficiency. The standoff lasted less than a minute. The QRF tactical team breached the perimeter with overwhelming force, their coordinated advance leaving the operatives with no viable options. One by one, they lowered their weapons and submitted to arrest. 2 weeks later, Sam Reed stood at the firing range at Fort Benning, observing as Private Foster demonstrated the advanced marksmanship techniques she had taught him. Her left arm remained in a sling, and she walked with a slight limp, but the doctors had assured her that both injuries would heal completely. Staff Sergeant Mitchell approached, standing beside her as they watched Foster complete his qualification course with near-perfect scores. "He's good," Mitchell observed. "One of the best I've seen come through the program." Sam nodded slightly. "He has the right mindset. Technical skills can be taught, but the ability to remain calm under pressure is rare. Mitchell was quiet for a moment. The men have been talking about what happened, about how you took 2 rounds and still completed the mission. They're calling you the silent warrior now. Sam's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her amber eyes. Not pride exactly, but a quiet acknowledgement of a truth she had long since accepted about herself. Names don't matter, she said simply. Results do. Colonel Reynolds appeared, walking toward them with purposeful strides. The intelligence from the laptop had disrupted 3 additional cells. The financial data had led to the freezing of multiple accounts used to fund extremist operations. The laptop data pointed to someone at the Pentagon, Reynolds said quietly. Someone with access to the highest levels of classified operations. We've narrowed it to 3 candidates, but we need solid evidence. Sam nodded. The hunt wasn't over. The final betrayer was still out there, still a threat to national security, still needing to answer for the deaths of her teammates. Reynolds confirmed her reassignment to Fort Bragg. The new specialized training unit would be operational within 3 months. The task force wanted her back for follow-up operations once her medical clearance was confirmed. Captain Harrison joined her after Reynolds departed, offering a cup of coffee, which she accepted with a nod of thanks. Quite a legacy you're building here, he observed, gesturing toward Foster and the other recruits. In just a few weeks, you've transformed not just the program, but the people in it. Sam's amber eyes tracked across the training field, taking in the activity with professional assessment. Mitchell leading a tactical movement exercise with confidence and precision. Bennett demonstrating weapon transitions with newfound expertise. Even Ramsey was calmly instructing rather than intimidating his squad. And Foster, the eager private who had seen something in her before anyone else, now passing on those same lessons to others with earnest dedication. This, she said finally, her voice carrying a rare note of certainty, this is what I need. As the sun began to set over Fort Benning, casting long shadows across the training fields, Sam Reed continued her observation, her amber eyes watchful and attentive. The nightmares would not disappear. The ghosts of Phantom Scythe would continue to demand reckoning. The silent warrior would be called upon again to hunt in the shadows. But for now, she was exactly where she needed to be. Transforming young soldiers into survivors, teaching them to breathe, to focus, to make the right decisions when everything around them was chaos. The silent warrior had found her voice, not in words but in the lives she was helping to save.